Look, I won't take much of your time. Minister, I do understand your position, but I am speaking in support of Senator Black here today. For far too long, we've been hearing about initiatives to try and resolve the problems, and sometimes a bold step is required. The destruction of an entire population is no way. We just simply cannot stand by and watch that. I understand the government will fight the good fight to try and stop Senator Black's bill. I hope it gets the whole way through. You have crops destroyed, thousands of years of olive groves destroyed as they take over properties as they see fit. A rocket is fired from somewhere into Israel and they destroy not the whole street but 2 or 3 or 4 streets. It is just beyond belief that the world has sat by for as long as I can remember and watched this conflict. So sometimes a bold step is taken, and I compliment Senator Black on this, and I'll support the bill today. I deeply regret that we in Ireland have to take the lead on this. There are far more powerful countries in the world that should have and could have acted before now. There are people on all sides arming both sides in this conflict who really need to look at what they're doing. But in this particular case, I feel that the Palestinians have suffered more than anybody else, so I will support Senator Black.
I want to speak briefly, Minister, just to confirm the support, the strong support of the Labour Party in the Seanad for this bill. I spoke in January to express our support for it then. I want to commend Senator Black and her colleagues for bringing it forward. And I just want to say that I think since January, since we commenced the debate on the bill then, the case for this bill has become even more compelling, if I may say so, because we've seen appalling atrocities, killing of Palestinian civilians. Looking at the UN figures, it's the killing of Palestinians in Gaza between 30th March and 18th June, 137 Palestinians killed, some 14,800 injured, including 3,943 by live ammunition gunshots. We've seen no progress on the peace process. Indeed, we have seen a roll back with US intervention on the peace process. And I think, therefore, we have no choice but to try and take a lead on this. Labour has a long-standing position in support of the rights of the Palestinian people, informed by the need for a two-state solution. We have stood always for the need for a comprehensive multilateral peace agreement between Israel and Palestine which respects international law. We're seeing multiple violations of international law in the ongoing settlements. As Taoiseach Eamon Gilmore, then party leader of Labour, led the way in 2011 at his speech at the UN General Assembly in New York, supporting the Palestinian bid to become a full member of the UN as Ireland's Taoiseach then. We led then. Sweden and other countries have led within the EU in unilateral actions recognising the state of Palestine, and I believe that it is time for us in Ireland to lead again on this issue in asserting the rights of the Palestinian people and in taking this modest step in supporting Senator Black's bill. And I just want to urge colleagues strongly to support it in this House today.
Thank you, Senator Mary-Louise O'Donnell.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Minister.
Would you be agreeable to having 4 minutes and for Senator Kelleher? And then
welcome to the public gallery, many of our most distinguished guests about whom we are speaking. I'm very privileged to be a member of the upper house here and an independent one. And as a legislator, we're all in this House tasked to upholding, creating and developing laws which value life and value equality and value freedom and value peace and indeed value the expectation of hope and meaning and indeed happiness. And so it is entirely right that such a bill as this should come through the House. We either believe in democracy or we don't. And there is something rotten in the way democracy is defined and lived and most importantly denied within the Israeli-Palestinian territories, because democracy among Palestinians is more akin to annihilation. Since I have come into this Seanad, we have been incessant and daily and sincere questioning on our own human rights in Ireland, our sexuality, our partnerships, direct provision, the quality of educational opportunity, penal reform and our right to life, and this morning the right to traveller education within our culture. And they all pale into significance, if not in privileged insignificance in respect of human rights in Palestine. All human rights are supposed to have the same value. At least that is where we are supposed to begin. However, that does not happen in relation to one Israeli soldier and 500 Palestinian children. That, senators, is a war where there are no rules. And Israel occupies a place within Palestine where they obey no rules. Now, I've had the privilege of visiting Palestine. And as Senator Norris has told us most eloquently, throughout the years I've been in this House, a witness to the greatest violation of human rights by one country over another, Israel over Palestine. It is a living apartheid every day. The wall, as been mentioned, is higher and more evident now than it has been, I think, when our other senators from Fianna Fáil were there. It runs through people's homes, yards, farms, houses, business premises, olive groves and water, as was mentioned. If the Israelis decide to turn off the water, that's what happens. To turn off the electricity, that's what happens. It runs through their fields, hills, trees and lives. Wherever Israel wants to push it, pull it, or further it, it will happen. It gets bigger, thicker and fatter every day as they build it. And the Palestinians who are here with us today have to go round it because they can't go over it. They haven't access to cross. They have to cross at different places. They queue for hours to go to work, to leave work. They queue to come home and to leave their homes if they have work. They cannot drive on Israeli motorways without a pass. They cannot live without a permit. Every Palestinian I met there was living normally in captivity. Now, this House is supposed to be about freedom and about upholding freedom and peace and justice and equality. That's why I have the privilege of being here. And this is the people I met were living normally in captivity. They live, I suppose, despite themselves. And it is my opinion that one of the greatest culprits of this is a toothless and a very insular Europe. Not you, Minister, but a very toothless and insular Europe, which can only ever come to the fore in here when we are talking about the great God called the euro. If we're talking in Europe about the God called the euro, everybody is to the front. Everybody. God is the dollar and the dollar is God. And we have such arguments for it. Who runs Europe? Somebody asked me recently and I said, oh, the European Bank. It does. We can do nothing else. And I think that is also a dysfunctionality of the UN, where it's philosophy and policy and philosophy and policy, but where is the action? And then the United States of America. So we get the finest combination of onlookers, ignorers and willful powerlessness. So what can the Seanad do? Well, we can do something. Personally, I would like to see sanctions against Israel for crimes against humanity. Is the bill the way to go? I took in all the arguments because I believe this is a house of listening as well as speaking. I don't know. What goods are we talking about? How will we guarantee that such goods will be illegal? Where are the such projects in our shops? What are the projects? What shops are involved, I ask? And how it will move democracy on? How will it do it? And how will it be implemented? 250,000 if you're against it, and 5 years in jail. However, I think two things. One of the things that I come from a background of the arts, and it was always the arts that elevated politics, death, destruction, denial, fraction above into another area. If you look at Daniel Barenboim's orchestra, the East-West Divan Orchestra, where Israeli and Palestinians come together to use the arts to elevate people from destruction. But however, I think Senator Black in this instance is correct. Her methods, I understand the arguments either side, but I am going to support you, Senator Black, because if we don't, we will continue with policy, we will continue speaking, and we will continue doing nothing, but thinking we're doing something because we're actually speaking about it in 15 different languages. So I agree with you and I am going to support you and I thank you for the bravery of your bill.
Thank you. Senator McDougall, you have 3 4 minutes.
The group of which I'm a member is a diverse group with different views and I fully respect the views just expressed now by Ian Marshall, and I also take into account what the Minister said today and what Senator Leydon has said in relation to this issue. However, I have a different view, and that is this, that since 1967, and since the illegal occupation thereafter of the West Bank and Gaza and East Jerusalem, or West Jerusalem by the Israeli armed forces, there has been a constant and deliberate, systematic, and by the way, the annexation of Golan as well. There's been a constant and deliberate defiance of international law. I stand by what the United Nations declared in Resolution 242, that this is not Israeli territory and that its annexation is therefore illegal and must end. It violates international law. Now, if like Senator Marshall, I took the view that things were progressing in the right direction and that we were in the middle of a delicate peace process which could be destabilized by unilateral statements from the outside by people who aren't exactly involved in the process, I would hesitate. But I see a different scenario, and I really want to say this emphatically. I see the American intervention in Israel under President Trump. I see Jared Kushner's involvement. I see what has been stated by the American Secretary of State and their ambassador to the UN in relation to these issues. And it's all going in the wrong direction. And I believe that the government of Benjamin Netanyahu has to get a message. And I believe the message has to be a very simple one, and that is respect the rule of international law and go for the two-state solution and commit yourself to an evacuation of the illegally occupied territories. Those are the minimum aims. I don't say they have to be done tomorrow, but those are the minimum aims of establishing peace in the Middle East. And therefore I say that no matter how complicated our position is by our membership of the EU, no matter how ineffectual the actual passage of this bill may be economically on the state of Israel, I do believe, as somebody who supports the right of Israel to exist and has always done so, that the passage of this bill may begin to set off similar gestures and stances in other countries across the world to give a message to Benjamin Netanyahu that the annexation of the occupied territories must stop, must be reversed, and that they must commit themselves to it, and that's why I'm supporting the bill.